My name is Anu-Laura Tuttelberg. I am a filmmaker, to be more precise, stop-motion filmmaker from Estonia. My way into animation was quite long. I was really into arts since my childhood. I was always drawing or painting or sculpting. That was something I did as a child daily. And I was always going to art hobby schools after the school hours. So my interest in art started in my early childhood, and I just always followed that path. But I didn't know exactly what direction to take inside the art world. Once I graduated high school, I had a big interest in photography, and I went to study photography. That was my first art studies. But during my studies in photography, I actually started to be more interested in theater, and I wanted to collaborate with other artists, not to just walk around alone with my camera, but I had this wish to collaborate and to do some like a more total, like an artwork which includes scripts and set designs and all of this, like you have in theater. So I changed my path a little bit, and I went to study in the Estonian Academy of Arts. I studied scenography. And during these studies, I found animation, stop-motion films. I saw some films by Jan Schwankmajer, by Quay Brothers, all these very detailed and atmospheric works, which for a set designer was just like a jewel. So I started to be interested in stop-motion animation. And I also learned during studying scenography that collaboration is very nice, but it doesn't always, like the result, I didn't always find most satisfying. A lot of my work as a set designer got lost in the way, and it was a little bit tiring and frustrating, and I got an ambition to start to direct myself. So in this stop-motion world, I found my chance to be able to tell a story, create the atmosphere and the world, and also to use my photography skills and passion. So it was like a combination of all my previous interests that was combined in stop-motion animation. When I was on my last year of scenography studies, I had an assignment to make as a final project. So that's when I found my chance to make my first narrative artwork. I made a photo film. So I didn't animate, but I used puppets. I used old dolls as characters. And as a set, I used my own like an apartment that I was renting, and this environment and those dolls that I was interested at the time, historic dolls, they made up a story for me, and I decided to make it as a photo film. And I realized during this process that it's really captivating for me to work on my own, to be able to do it from the idea till the very final work, and to be able to do all the details, to the sets, costumes of the puppets, everything myself, and everything that I put in is going to be there on the screen, that nothing is lost on the way. And I enjoyed that so much that I thought that my next step is going to be a stop-motion animation, that I will also move those puppets. So after graduating the scenography studies, I was applying to study in MA to make my stop-motion film, but I was very determined to make my film even if I wasn't going to be accepted to the school. I was set on this decision. It went very well. I got accepted to the MA program of animation, and I started making my stop-motion film. And and it turned out for me successfully. Before I started making my own films, I was mostly inspired by films by Jan Schwankmajer, and especially his film Alice, which is a feature stop-motion film based on Alice in Wonderland. That film really made me want to make my own stop-motion film. What interests me in animation is only the puppet film. I'm not an animator in the sense that I want to do animation and then I choose whether it's going to be a drawn animation or a puppet animation. I only want to make puppet films. If I wasn't making puppet films, I would probably be making live action films. It's the photographic image and the scenography that I like. I like to work with the material world, with real objects, with real materials. So drawn animation would not be my thing. I would like to work with actors if I wasn't working with puppets, but I prefer puppets. They don't talk back to you so much. So much, because they still do. In their own way, they are very rebellious. Crafting puppets is a very old skill or a medium of expression for artists, and definitely I find it very fascinating. And if I was more confident or comfortable on stage, I would have maybe considered doing puppet theater instead. But I prefer to be behind the camera, to move my puppets and myself be invisible. But the puppet making, that is true. I think it's a very old craft and there is some magic in it. And I think that when you make a puppet, the puppet has to be alive to be able to tell a story and to be a character. The puppet has its character and its life. And then you, as the manipulator of the puppet, you just you help it a little bit, but the puppet is telling its own story. I made my puppet out of wood for my first film after graduation, and I wanted to make my own Pinocchio. Maybe every artist, I think, wants to make their own Pinocchio, and that was my chance. I didn't make a Pinocchio, I made a wolf puppet and a dog. These were puppets constructed only out of wood. They don't have any animation wires or ball joints. They are just, they work with only the wood. And then later I moved towards porcelain, which is a very tricky material and not used in stop motion film normally because it's just not practical. It takes a long time to make. It's fragile. It doesn't bend. It's very stiff and solid, and just it's against everything that you would normally use in stop motion. But I had a very strong wish to learn to use porcelain. And since I always make films, I don't find time to make other projects outside of films. I had to incorporate my interest in porcelain into my films. So I decided to make puppets for a stop motion film out of porcelain. So with porcelain, I had this very long wish to make porcelain puppets, make porcelain dolls. But I just couldn't find the time. Next to my films, I just didn't have the time. And then I had an idea to make a film in the nature. And I found a very beautiful location in Mexico. It was like a garden of sculptures, or like architectural, big architectural buildings that had no function, that just looked like huge sculptures in the rainforest. And I thought, okay, now this is my chance to use my porcelain my wish to make porcelain puppets and to combine it with the nature. And that is where it started, my idea of working in the nature and using porcelain puppets. So I started to design my puppets, and I started to learn how to use the porcelain because I had never touched it before. And I got advice from puppet makers in the stop motion studio in Estonia, in Tallinn, called Nuku Film Studio. Puppet makers from there helped me to figure out how to construct it, like how to make the joints. So I got the tutoring from the ceramists and also the puppet makers, and then I combined their advice and their skills, and I invented this kind of animation puppets made out of porcelain. So here, like, every detail is like a separate sculpture. It's first made out of plasticine and then cast into plaster molds. And then into that mold, you pour liquid porcelain, and you get like a shell of porcelain, and you open the mold, you let the porcelain piece dry, then you burn it in a kiln, then you glaze it, and then all these details, they come out of the kiln separately, and then I join them with animation wire and combine it into a puppet that can be animated. It takes a long time, but I was making all of them parallelly. But still, I would say it's months for just one puppet. And yeah, it took like at least a year before starting to shoot the film to make the puppets, and then testing them, and then, yeah, it was a long way. And the puppet also has these very sharp needles. I don't know if it's visible on the camera, but it has very sharp needles. This is for attaching the puppet to trees so that it would not fall down from the tree. When I start to make a script for my film, I usually start from parallelly from different places. First of all, I'm very inspired by locations, nature, or interiors. I find inspiration from these locations that I have visited. So one starting point is the environment, the location where the story takes place. Another is the characters. It's usually a specific kind of material that I'm interested in, and that inspires me to come up with characters. And then the characters and the environment, they start to communicate, and it makes up a story. And usually there's also some sort of a personal topic that I am interested in or that I am thinking about in a specific moment of my life. So these are very different aspects that are combined, and they come together in one story or a film. I think that when you are shooting on film, this film material has its own character. It is, again, it's a material. It has its texture, it has its colors, it has the grain, the film grain that gives like a characteristic to the image. The film gives you these things, it has its own qualities, and you can use it. Just like if you are painting, you choose your paints, whether you're painting with oil, with acrylics, which tones you use. It's the same with film. You choose this film, and this is like the color palette and the texture that you have. It's like something that the film gives you to work with. I think I shoot on 16mm because of my love for analog technique, photography, but also I think in this case of shooting the porcelain puppets in the nature, it also helps to integrate those two things that on first thought don't combine well. And somehow this graininess and blurriness of the film texture it integrates them better. And also, of course, I think it's the challenge. Like I think I do have a little bit of like a need to take very big challenges and to hike around in the jungle with an old 16mm camera with porcelain puppets and try to shoot everything within one day, because you cannot leave it there for the night, because it will be destroyed by rain, wind, the river flowing it away. Plus, using analog camera in a very like a distant location in nature, it's practical because you wind it up and you push the button and it rolls. My favorite parts are coming up with the story, just creating the idea, and then of course making puppets. And I think the most satisfying moment of making the films is when you are in the location with your puppet and you set up the frame, like doing the photography, setting it up and creating this scene with the puppets that you have created. That's a very nice moment for me. And then comes the very hard part, animating. I don't enjoy animating so much because it's really hard. Takes a lot of patience. It's also physically hard, especially in the nature, because you are not in a comfortable position. You cannot work at a desk. You cannot stand up even sometimes. Like it's just crawling on the ground or in the snow. It's just hard to focus and to get the perfect result, especially if you're a perfectionist. But when I make a stop motion story, I can already see the puppets move, and I just need to realize it. I need to make it happen. So that's my only goal. But I would prefer to work with animators, if only they would want to go to these very cold or uncomfortable locations to crawl on the ground for 5 hours and be in the snowstorm and move a little puppet 15 centimeters between the snow and grass. Making my films, I have had some very hard moments. Mostly it is related with the duration of the projects and just putting up with the financial difficulties, because making an animation, it is hardly ever fully funded. But also during the shooting, I have had some difficult moments, like just physically very difficult moments. Like, for example, I was shooting my first scenes for the winter in the rainforest in Peru. I took all my puppets and my cameras and my tripods, put them in a backpack and the tripods in my hand. I was hiking in the jungle looking for my spots to shoot. And there was one moment that I was in a river base, walking with my very heavy bag, and I was already tired. And I slipped and fell over on the backpack. And I was so tired, and the backpack was so heavy that I couldn't get up. I was like a little turtle, waving my hands and legs, trying to get up from that muddy rocky path. And then I was really wondering, like, what am I doing here? Why can't I live like a normal human being, work in a studio and make my films like in a humane conditions, not like hiking in the jungle alone and falling down. But I got up and and was just laughing at my silly adventures. I think I'm very obsessive in reaching the goal. And once I have already visualized the film, I have to finish it, even if it takes 5 years. I don't find that hard, actually. I find it comforting to know that I have my film, I know what I'm doing. I wake up in the morning and I know what I have to do. I don't have this existential problem of what should I do with my day or with my life, because I have the film and I know that I have to finish it. I think I have been lucky with criticism in the sense that there have always been people who have liked my work, who say that they found something important in my films, or that these films give them some sort of some hope or some sense of beauty or peace. And that has so much more weight than some criticism that is maybe negative. I have to admit I haven't got any really negative feedback. I think the most negative feedback is that there is no opinion or there is no feedback. But I don't mind. I really don't mind. I know that there are people who find this work important or interesting or beautiful, and that is enough for me. I don't worry about wanting to be liked by all the audience. It's just not possible. It would be a bad sign, I think. If the films I make are of course, the final film is for being able to share. If you make art, you have to share it. I think that's the right way. But the process, for sure, is more important. And I also realized with the first films, I felt a little bit of like the amount of work and the result was a bit out of balance for me. Like, you work so hard, you make a film for 2 years, and it's 7 minutes, and then people look at it for 7 minutes, and like, what can be the award for that? Like, it's not enough because you put 2 years of your life in there. So what I learned, that I need to make this process enjoyable for myself, that I have to enjoy the process more than the result, so that it would make sense to do it. And that is also why I moved my studio outdoors, because I felt like I was losing the years of my life in a dark room, doing something for a result, like doing something for a result of 7 or 10 minutes. It's not worth it. So I have to enjoy the process of making the film. And what I enjoy is being outdoors, experiencing the rhythm of the day, morning, daytime, evening, that I'm aware of it, that there's light and there's darkness. So I wanted to be part of the world. I wanted to be part of the rhythm of the seasons, of the day, of the nature. And I enjoy being outdoors. So I made my work part of it. Film I want to make, and I have all the money in the world, I would make a longer film based on Tambelina. This story that I'm telling now in the nature, it is already based on it, but I would tell more precisely that fairy tale. I've always been, it has been one of my favorite stories, and I could follow my passion in working in the nature with animals or small scale in the nature. That would just follow very well my current work.